Hello and welcome to Low Volume Small Form Factor.net's podcast. My name is Josh Ramirez, aka Playful Phoenix, and I am joined, as always, by James Shell, aka Apophobia. How have you been doing, James?
Been doing good. Got bit hasn't really shown up on the site yet, but I got lots and lots of content planned, so it's going to be an exciting couple weeks.
No kidding. We'll touch on that in a bit. And then, of course, John Morrison as well, aka Confucius. How you doing, John?
I'm pretty good. The party next door is quieting down. I may have had something to do with that. Thanks, noise control. Hey, they were in tomorrow to my recording.
Just made a quick phone call. That's all.
Yeah,
you know.
that's all I need to do. I had someone go visit them, if you know what I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean. Anyway. All right. We got a tight schedule here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dive right in. And whereas normally we would just dive into the news, and we have a decent amount of news to talk about, plenty going on even immediately following CES. We actually have a few announcements that we want to share. Now, one of them for folks that have been on the forum recently, you've probably already noticed because we do have a banner up on the main page. But we actually have or I guess I should say, had a giveaway going on. Just because CES ended and we were having so much fun, we kind of want to keep the fun going. So we had a few items to give away, 2 coolers that we have actually previously reviewed, both of them by Ravine. The Stropes and the Vanksy. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced both of those, but
And the company name.
Hopefully people know what we're talking about. But yes, at this point, we have arrived at the weekend. Essentially, how we tend to attack these giveaways for folks that are unfamiliar. What we do is we create a forum thread where we just ask folks to post on that, and usually we'll have a question. So the question for this giveaway was just what your favorite thing from CES was, and that's just to have some sort of interesting conversation at the same time. But the way the process works is that we randomly select someone. We just use random.org and pull a random integer and use that to deduce which post to choose, and that ends up being the person who wins. And then for this particular giveaway, it was a little different just because we had 2 different products. So I think the way we attacked it, although I'll defer to John, is we picked a person for the initial cooler, and then we picked a person for the second cooler, and then the first winner got to choose which cooler they preferred, and then the other person got the remaining cooler. But anyways, without further ado, John, you've been the one running this, as you actually are the person who reviewed and indeed is holding on to the coolers currently. So what's up?
Well, I'll correct you first on the pronunciation. It's the Reven. It's got 2 E's at the start. The Stropes and the Vanksy. So I've done the draw, so we did it slightly differently to how you did it. I put all the names in a list and did a list randomizer, and the top 2 names were the ones that went through to the winning thing. Great English.
Gotcha.
So our winners, and the person who is in first place gets to pick what they want, and the person in second place gets the leftovers. Sounds kind of rude, but you still win something. The winner is no one. Like
What?
literally the
No one won.
Oh, come on. What's up with that?
the username is no_1.
Ah.
And the second place person is I'm not going to try to pronounce that. DEDACIAI.
Dedica?
Dedikai? We'll roll with that. So
I'm sure the free cooler is worth us 3 gents mispronouncing your name.
Hey, I've got an entire lifetime with everyone mispronouncing Confucius.
All right. Well, hey, look, congratulations to you both. I believe, John, you'll be reaching out over private message on the forum to let them know.
Indeed.
And thank you so much for everyone that posted. It was, as always, neat. You know, we always have a question that accompanies these, and it was neat to see what you guys found interesting about CES. A few of you even said that your favorite part was us being there, which was nice and gave us all sorts of fuzzy feelings. And hopefully we'll have many more CESs to attend to come. So Thank you all for participating. The other forum announcement we have that is worthwhile to share with you all is actually a feature update. So, we always try to sort of spend time figuring out ways to improve the forum for everyone as well as for subscribers. And one of the things that we personally have been kind of frustrated with up until recently was the search functionality for the forum. So for folks not in the know, we use Zenforo as kind of the platform on which our forum is built on top of, and for the most part, we're very happy with it. It's a very modern platform relative to all the other options. We're happy with the design. We're happy with some of the features that are included. The least of which one of my favorites personally is two-factor authentication. But I digress. All this to say, one of the things that we didn't like at all. But that is actually kind of important in terms of UX, was the search functionality. And for any listeners who are members of the forum or have used the search before, you can probably relate to the fact that it's generally actually pretty damn difficult to find exactly what you're looking for if you know exactly what you wanted to find. For whatever reason, the algorithm that is included with sort of the default template or the default configuration for Zenforo just isn't terribly good at search. So we actually have, over the past few days, installed a plugin, a whole new search system called Elasticsearch, which I'm sure some of you guys have heard of. And the intent behind this was just to basically improve the search functionality such that it's a lot easier for folks to find what we're looking for. So by the time you're listening to this, whether or not you're listening to us right now live or you're listening to us via podcast, this has been installed and running for a few days now. We've done our own testing and can confirm that search no longer completely sucks.
So much better.
It is a lot better. It is impressively better. We're happy to continue to make improvements, and any feedback from folks is welcome. But for those that maybe have tried out search and then just given up on it and decided never to use it again because it sucks,
that would be me.
Another chance, yeah, like us, give it another chance because it is substantially better. We're very happy with how it performs. All of us individually and independently have been using it a lot more and have been sort of kicking the tires, trying to find certain things, and it's just way, way more reliable. And it basically works the way you'd expect it to, which is about the best you can hope for search in general.
Yeah, so it's more relevant. So because before, I think I gave the example that he searched like what games are you playing, and you would expect the what games are you playing thread to be the first thing, but it wasn't. So now it definitely is. So like what you would expect to be like either first or within the top couple of results usually is now. But also the minimum search length has been shortened to, I think you can go down to 2 characters. And it's also case sensitive, and like it's case sensitive when it needs to be, which is really interesting. Like if you search like LP for low profile, if you do lowercase LP, it doesn't really come up with anything because that wouldn't really be helpful at all. But if you do capital L, capital P, because that's usually what most people do for when they're abbreviating low profile, it actually comes up with a bunch of results. So it's in some cases you have to be kind of aware of like capitalization, like if you're searching for like really short abbreviations, but that it can do it at all is really impressive, because before even going down to 3 characters it started getting, it was already spotty, but it got really bad. And now like in certain instances you can even do 2 characters and it gives you very relevant results. So yeah, it's really nice.
Woo! Functional search, who would have thought?
Yes.
All right, and then we actually have one more announcement. My goodness, a lot of announcements for the forum. One more announcement, and this has to do not with a new feature, but actually a whole new section for the forum, and that is a little place we're calling the vendor marketplace. So most folks are probably familiar with the various sections that already exist that are meant to be geared towards commerce. A little while ago, we actually introduced the buy, sell, trade section in sort of a broader section called the bazaar. And we are expanding that with the what we're calling the vendor marketplace. And from our inception, there's been sort of an intent with Small Form Factor Forum to really be able to support the independent projects and other things that folks are creating, at scale. So you have build logs and all this, but you also have folks that are trying to design either enclosures or other products, and then do manufacturing runs of those as enthusiasts, as individuals, not as like full-fledged companies like Silverstone or Corsair at all, and provide these unique designs to the community. So, so far they've sort of lived in a few areas or custom cases and projects or whatever, but we essentially, in creating the vendor marketplace, and you can look at the rules and the mission statement and such on the forum itself, the intent behind it is really to just further that support in a structural way by giving a dedicated place for folks to basically have a page to sort of provide their wares for sale, as well as to sort of continue the conversation with the community, address questions. We're essentially just trying to centralize, legitimize, and support all of the creators on our forum with their endeavors. And while it's sort of a small, step and a small way for us to do it, I think, context is important, and it's important for us to note that this is kind of the first step in a whole series and sequence of features and other things that we're thinking about and hoping to build out in service to making these projects possible. I'm sure that lots of listeners are aware that James and I, not only do we run this forum, but we have Chimera Industries, where we have our own enclosure that we've worked on. So I think the fact that we're just so intimately familiar with all of the challenges and difficulties that exist from having this project and spinning it up and scaling it appropriately, we want to try and eliminate those barriers, or at least simplify them for as many community members as possible, because we know if we can do that, it'll really, really be beneficial, not just to those creators individually, but to the community as a whole, because it'll be that much easier for us to have access to really cool ideas, really cool designs, the sort of stuff that the Corsairs and Silverstones of the world haven't built yet, or not really interested in creating, but that maybe a couple hundred of us in the community would really, really, really appreciate having. So I encourage you, even if you're not looking to buy or if you're not a vendor, to take a peek. And we'll certainly have more to say in that realm moving forward, but we think it's an awesome first step. And as always, any feedback for this or for Elasticsearch or for the giveaways, we try and do stuff all the time. We'd like to say that the forum itself is kind of an experiment on our part, and all of these different initiatives and things are no exception. But feedback, as always, is welcome. Just feel free to sort of tap our shoulder on the forum or elsewhere. All right, and with that, we shall dive into the news. So the first item up actually has nothing to do with computers per se, although it does have to do with Silverstone. This is something that, John, you reported on just a few days ago, actually. So it appears that Silverstone has launched a new product, and it's actually the second generation. I didn't even realize that they had made this before, but it's actually noise absorption foam. Which I'm familiar with just because of my time. Obviously I'm a podcaster now, but I ran a radio station and we had this stuff in our studio. So why don't you tell me about this? Because the application for this is obviously a bit different.
Yeah, I did a quick review, I think it was late last year, of the first generation foam, which is about 5mm thick EPDM foam. And it was pretty good. But they've now gone and launched a second generation of this particular product, which it appears to be the same EPDM foam, but it's thicker and it's got a wave texture to it to kind of what's the word for it? Help out with the noise absorption side of it, but also with the extra thickness, it'll add some weight to the panels and therefore change the resonant frequencies, and it should be an improvement over the previous generation one. I'm not sure if they're going to be selling both at the same time, because I can understand with my experience with the first generation product that even the 5mm thick is a struggle to get into some places. So it'll be interesting to see what business decision they make on that. But it overall looks like an interesting step, because not really many companies focus on this side of it, of the making a computer quieter, or I don't know, it's better.
Yeah, I mean, they call it a wave design. To me, it was more like a lot of these products for use in studio or other contexts will obviously they'll be a lot thicker because you're just throwing them on like a wall in a room or a ceiling or what have you. But they tend to have what I lovingly refer to as the egg carton aesthetic, where
I'm pretty sure that's the official name for it.
yeah, and so it's not, Silverstone calls it wave because wave sounds more impressive, but it's really just kind of like a flattened egg carton, which and there's a reason that they're designed that way. As part, there are a multitude of ways in which you can dampen noise, and one method to aid in that, beyond just having materials that'll absorb it, is to have irregular surfaces that will help to scatter the noise. And so the intent here is to basically just sort of break up, which makes it easier for the material to absorb it. Now the price point is little. I mean, EDPM, or excuse me, EPDM is definitely the good stuff. There are a variety of materials that can be used in various contexts for the purpose of sound absorption. I'm seeing on the report a MSRP of $21, actually closer to $22. Do you know the size of the panels themselves?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but the original ones were quite sizable. I managed to do an entire micro ATX small form factor case with one sheet, and you get 2 sheets per pack.
Oh, okay.
So it's quite a lot.
Yeah, if it's that size, I'll take back my complaint. That's actually a pretty darn reasonable price for
the first generation stuff. I paid New Zealand $20 for the packs. So what's that, about $17 US? So it's not a huge increase considering it's almost another third as much material.
Yeah. And I presume you'd have to cut it into sections. Was that relatively easy to do? Or
with scissors, yes. The adhesive is so aggressive, it does become a challenge. Mm-hmm. As soon as it sticks to the blades of your scissors, you're kind of screwed. And once you
go ahead.
Once you place it in the case, you're done. That's it. It's
it's there.
it's there, and it's a challenge to get back off if you put it in the wrong spot. But on a positive note, I've been running the version 1 stuff in my main rig for almost a month now, and I've had no delamination. It hasn't moved. It has noticeably changed the acoustic properties of the system, which is great.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's funny because the features you list in the article, one of them includes improved and excellent adhesion in high temperature. So I wonder if they got some feedback with the initial one for like folks, overclocking their dual Xeon processor, quad SLI rigs, and then complaining, oh wow, I'm suffering from delamination, and then they decided, okay, super glue for everyone. But who knows?
Yeah, I'm kind of worried that they did improve it, because one day you're going to do. I want to.
It's too good. It's too sticky.
Yeah, I want to put something in the like something extra in the case. I can't fit because of the foam, and it's going to take me about a week to get this stuff off.
Jeez. All right. Well, it seems. I mean, if the first generation was good stuff, at least in terms of the acoustic properties and the quantity and value and whatnot, then I have no doubt that only continues with the second generation, even if it's like a little too sticky, I guess. But in any case, I'd like to move on to the next thing. We're actually still going to discuss Silverstone, but we're going to talk about something that at least I personally am a heck of a lot more excited about. One of the things that we actually kind of were able to get the jump on relative to most other news outlets, thanks to some excellent sleuthing on the part of James, was a crazy, inconceivable, I can't believe they're actually making this product. The SX800 LTI, which is a 800 watt titanium rated SFXL power supply by Silverstone. It's been quite a lot of time from the moment that was sort of uncovered and Silverstone acknowledged that it was real through to it actually being available. I believe it was
actually not really, because I mean it was Computex, so we're like talking 7 months or so, 7-8 months, something like that.
7-8 months,
yeah. Which,
well, maybe
I guess in some context it's a long time, but you compare it to like the 700 watt, which like that was announced, or it was first revealed, and then it was like delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed, and finally came out like mid last year. So in comparison, this is like a very timely release. I mean, it would still be nicer to see a shorter kind of turnaround from announcement to product, like actual availability. But
Yes, point taken. On a relative
yeah,
basis.
on a relative basis, it's not too bad. But it is available, like on Newegg. You can go out and buy it, and I think on Amazon too now. So unfortunately, though, at least last time I checked, it was 190 plus shipping on Newegg, which is ouch. I think MSRP is 180. So I wish the price was lower, but if you have to have it and it is pretty awesome, then it is out. So we just wanted to make a little announcement about that because I know there's a lot of criticism about the 700 watt taking so long. So the 800 watt is here. You can buy it now.
Yeah,
And you should, because it's awesome.
Actually, yes,
10.
please buy it so that way we can get better ones like 900 or even a kilowatt. That would be super impressive.
That would be insane. I would have to. Boy, how would I even use that much? I'd have to like install 3 graphics cards just for the hell of it.
with
Oh, I
Peltier.
know. It's like I would
Peltiers.
have like almost. I'm pretty sure nobody on our farm would need like anywhere near that, but it would just the bragging rights would be completely worth it.
That sounds like a challenge.
I challenge anybody
Anyone?
who's 1,000 watts in less than.
I pledged to buy that thing just because.
Oh, I
because,
would
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Kilowatt. It's like I got a kilowatt in mine.
I'm never gonna use it all, but like, come on, man.
I don't know, overclock
yeah.
a socket 2011 CPU with a couple of, maybe water cooled single slot cards. Might get close.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? Who knows?
Not that
All right,
anyone
well,
does cards with single slot rear
I
IO
know.
anymore.
But that's a discussion for another time.
That is.
You mean it's a rant for another time?
Yes.
Yes. That is correct. Anyway, let's move on to more interesting and happy developments. Speaking of product announcements, we're going to shift away from Silverstone and move to Gigabyte. And this was actually a tip, I believe, that we received, whereby someone noticed on their website that without any fanfare at all, Gigabyte mentioned or added to their product lineup the GTX 1050 and 1050 Ti cards on the website. And John, you actually reported on this. So why don't you tell us about these cards?
The funny thing is, I actually got the tip for this during the last podcast. And while you guys were talking about things, I actually quickly posted this news article during the podcast. So this is basically it's the GTX 1050 and 1050 Ti, not Ti. Don't know what you're on about. But the cooler design looks identical to the 750 Ti series that Gigabyte put out, of which I have one sitting right next to me right now. So the cooler, while it's only a single fan, is still quite quiet, and it does keep it relatively cool.
Yeah, and then in terms of top line specs, I mean, we're talking what, 2 gigs of memory?
Yeah.
I believe that's that should just be GDDR5.
That's correct. 128-bit memory bus. What do we got here? Core clock of 1392 base. It's an OC mode, or 1366 in gaming mode, with a boost to 1506 and 1468 respectively. Memory is clocked in at 7008 megahertz. That bugs the OCD part of me.
And what's the power consumption for it?
They're not saying. They're recommending a 300 watt power supply. So the usual.
Well, there's no 6 pins, so they're probably
It's
like
under 75
60, 65 watts, somewhere in there.
If they're using this cooler on it, I'm guessing it's relatively similar to the 750 Ti, which is about 60, 70 watts.
Yeah.
The 1015 Ti clock speed's 1328 OC mode with a 1442 boost, 1303 in gaming mode, and a 1417 boost on that one. That does, however, have 4 gigs of GDDR5 on a 128-bit memory bus, so it's a bit faster. If I remember rightly, it also has more CUDA cores.
Yeah, it does.
I don't have this number in front of me, but yeah, should be pretty good.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the actual market price for that is, because that, it's positioned pretty well. That could be a pretty good value product. I mean, that has just enough for what a lot of folks would ever need for what they're doing. So,
well, the 750 Ti was pretty much the small form factor glory graphics card for a while.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
so-
yeah. Very good performance for the price. You don't need any additional power cables
That was
or
low
anything.
profile.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
Oh, one quick thing on the Gigabyte that's unique to it is that it has 4 display connectors.
yes, it matches
So
the
they
750.
managed to cram a second HDMI port in there, which is pretty impressive considering its low profile.
Yep.
Like really, this thing has more display connectors than some full height cards, which is
Yeah, it's got the same, almost the same display output as the 750 Ti, except for one exception. So the 1050 Ti has a display port, 2 HDMI's, and a DVI-D, whereas the 750 Ti has the DVI, was it I, the one with the you can put
with
convert
the
to
VGA adapter.
Yeah, this one does not have that capability. It's digital only.
Yeah, and that's a
Yay.
GPU thing. Is that NVIDIA dropped support for the DVI-I?
Good runners.
Can they just drop the support for DVI? Period.
Hey, I still use
Why?
DVI.
Why?
We can
Why?
only hope.
The fastest
'Cause
display
speaking of-
display I've got is DVI.
Yeah, because speaking of not single slot, like the stupid DVI connector here is taking up the second slot.
No. It's massive
Oops.
and inconvenient and ugly as hell.
Can we go back to the old? Can we go back to the old days where we had like the VGA on the little riser cable? Could we have the DVI on that, please?
I don't ever see that on DVI, so I wonder if it's a signal integrity issue.
It could be.
I guess because VGA is analog that they could do that.
Well, DVI's got so many more pins too.
That too.
I'm pretty sure I've seen it on HDMI at one point though. Could have been a Pro card though.
Yeah.
Well, we can dream, can't we?
We can indeed. Just a message to all the graphics card manufacturers out there: single slot. Jeez.
Do it. Do
it.
it. I mean, that's the that's honestly one of the bigger problems in my mind with DVI is, you'll take a look at like the GTX 1080 and you're like, oh man, I want to put a water block on that and make it a single slot, but you can't. You can't because it has DVI on the top slot, like a monster.
Well, you can, but it requires either a good soldering iron or an angle grinder.
Dude, that card's really expensive. I don't trust myself to take
That's
either
the
of those
problem.
things.
Is like you could do it, but like realistically, most people aren't going to destroy or damage their like $600, $700, $800 video card to do
I'm
it.
not destroying the graphics card. I'm modifying.
Yes.
Yeah, and totally voiding the warranty.
Gigabyte's managed to fit the 3 other displays, like the 2 HDMI and the display port on the PCB. That's all we need. If you want,
Yeah,
if you're
if they can
desperate for
do- if
DVI
they
like
can do
myself, use an adapter.
Yeah, you can use a HDMI to DVI adapter and get your DVI, and it's not a big deal.
I'm
You
pretty
can
sure.
even throw one in with the box. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a famous YouTuber put out a video recently saying 2017 is the year of the dongle.
With Apple leading the way, right?
Indeed,
Oh, yes.
indeed.
Soon you're gonna need dongles for your dongles.
I think you already do.
There's a dongle joke in there somewhere. Anyway, speaking of graphics cards, James, you reported a few days ago about some pictured new products from Galax, and they're actually 2 pretty different graphics cards. They're both NVIDIA. We have a GTX 1050 Ti. It's Ti, not Ti.
Ti.
The reps call it Ti. Whatever. We're both right. We're both wrong, but we're both right. So it's a low profile version of this, which of course we're going to be excited about. And then there's also a GTX 1070 OC Mini pictured, which is not low profile in the traditional sense, but is still compact with respect to length. So could you tell us a little more about these?
Yeah. So, Robon Hood. Anyway, on the forum, just posted a tip. Oh, hey, there's these new low profile GTX 1050 and 1050 Ti on the Galax website. So I was checking it out, and it's really nice. And then I noticed the 1070, but I'll come back to that. So, because this is actually really crazy. Because for the longest time, there's no low profile high end cards. So it's it was kind of a drought. And then within 2 months, we have 3 different low profile GTX 1050 Ti's and then GTX 1050s. So the cool thing with the Galax is that as far as just the heatsink itself, it's definitely got the beefiest heatsink of the 3 between Gigabyte, MSI, and this one. So the Gigabyte and the MSI is just like a relatively small hunk of extruded aluminum. This has a really beefy hunk of extruded aluminum. It's basically 2 slot tall, and then there's like milled out cutouts for the fans to fit inside of. So the heatsink itself basically takes up the full 2 slots. And then not only that, but there's like a little copper plate embedded in the aluminum that makes contact with the GPU itself. So pretty chunky amount of metal there. But the downside though is I think the fans are a little bit smaller than either the Gigabyte, or maybe about the same as the Gigabyte, but definitely they look smaller than the MSI. So we'll just have to see what kind of quality those fans are if this thing is actually quiet. But it definitely has potential with that much metal on it. Unfortunately, it is dual slot, and it's like the MSI though. So you only get a DVI, D, display port, and then HDMI. So that's disappointing, but definitely that they went totally overkill on the heatsink in my opinion. So hopefully that translates into quiet cooling. So that's cool. Haha. But the 1070 OC Mini though looks really, really cool.
It does.
Yes, like it's like there's other short 1070s. So Gigabyte has one and Zotac has one. Though the Gigabyte one is pretty short in length. The Zotac one's the heatsink overhangs it, which is kind of annoying. So it's not as short as the PCB would suggest it could be. But not only that though, it's really short in height. I mean, it is a full height card, but it's basically reference full height though, because the Gigabyte is short in length, but it's pretty tall in height.
Yeah.
Which is really annoying in certain types of cases. But this one, there's a little like there's 3 pretty good size looking heat pipes on it, which is awesome that they crammed 3 heat pipes on it. So the rear one sticks up a little bit past the PCB, it looks like from the picture. It's a little hard to tell because of the perspective, but not a whole lot. So for the most part, the card is like almost reference height, which is just amazing. It's going to make fitting this into certain types of cases like the S4 Mini from NFC Systems is going to be so much easier with this card. So yeah, you got it's short both in length and height. It's got 3 heat pipes, a fairly dense looking heatsink array. The fans are only I think about 80 millimeter, which I wish they could have fit a little bit bigger. Like I think they could have fit 92 if they really pushed out the shroud to the very extremes of the card, which I would have loved to see 92 millimeter fans on this, but oh well.
Can't have everything.
Can't have everything. You're right. But I mean, the best part is to me is it's a very classy looking card. Black PCB, yeah, black fans, and then just like basically a silvery, almost I think brushed metal. It looks like kind of like a brushed finished shroud. So very classy. Should blend in with any build. So like the Gigabyte, love it or hate it, it's got that orange trim, which for the most part, it's not going to match most anything. I mean, you could definitely build around it. That would look good, but it's definitely sticks out. So this one blends in, and this is going to look amazing with the Asus Strix board, the Z270i Strix. So like silver and silver is just going to look amazing. And then, and a brushed silver S4. Yeah. Yeah, it would look awesome.
So tell us about your next build, James.
Yeah, stop drooling. You fry your mic.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you know, most of the things that Galax or however you pronounce it makes, I'm not necessarily a fan of when it comes to the design. But like with this, you know, I'm not like, if you just sort of said on paper like, oh well, it's got, you know, these glossy black fans, and yeah, it's got black PCB, but it's got that, you know, overbuilt industrial hyper masculine gamer aesthetic that pollutes practically every graphics card out there, I'd be like, okay, not terribly interesting. I don't think I'm gonna like this. This is definitely not to my taste. But it's just, and I struggle to come up with the word, but like handsome. I mean, it even just appears to be built really well, and it's really clean, and it looks and then just to know that it's a 1070, overclocked 1070, no less.
Yeah.
Like they overclocked it while not only keeping the height basically at reference, as you said, but the length. I mean, they couldn't even make it that much shorter. It's practically, it's just jutting a bit past the end of the PCI connector. I mean, this thing's cool, and this is going to make a ton of super compact but highly competent gaming machines possible that otherwise just wouldn't be, because you had to make that compromise one way or the other. Either it was going to be long or it was going to be tall, and now you can have it both and not compromise on performance. So I'll be curious as to what the sound profile is. I'll be curious to what the pricing is, but this is great. I'm very happy that we live in a world where this product exists.
I'd be even happier if we could actually get Galax in New Zealand.
Oh,
yeah, that's the problem with Galax is like availability is very sketchy depending on where you live. Like I think in Europe, because I guess Galax and KFA2 or KFA squared is basically the same company, or
They are the same
they have
company.
the same parent. So in Europe, I believe they're sold under KFA2. In the US and I guess North America is that you can buy Galax cards, but only directly from Galax. You can't buy it through like any normal retailer like Amazon or Newegg. They have like no distribution network for some reason. So hopefully these are available in not too long. And I sent an email through the contact form and got a reply. It was a little bit rough English, but they said that they will be available like soon or shortly and wait for an update. So
cool.
I'm not sure what their definition of soon is, so we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Yeah, exactly. So, because Galax, I mean, these both, I mean, they look like normal products. I mean, they're exciting for SFF, but like, because we talked about this single slot 1070 a while ago, and like, I think though that these are in no danger of like not releasing, but the single slot one, I'm still kind of skeptical if that will actually ever see retail shelves.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
All right, well, let's move on to the last piece of news that we've got, and it's actually kind of two separate pieces of news, and it's actually both Indiegogo campaigns of projects that come from the forum, no less. And it's super exciting for us to be able to report on them. The first, which I suspect a decent contingent of our listeners will be familiar with, is Dr. Zaber's Century Indiegogo campaign launched. This was originally reported on the 10th by you, James. I forget how long this project has really been in development.
About 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what happened is that, I mean, it's been so long now. I don't even know. Most people remember kind of the OG, the Valve Steambox prototypes or Steam Machine prototypes, which they were like, I loved it, and I think a lot of people loved it because it was very minimalistic. Like it had very strict limitations on hardware, but because of that, it was able to achieve a very small size relative to the later, like the Node 202 and the RVZ02 from Fractal and Silverstone, respectively. And like, because the big case companies kind of have to cater to more mainstream markets, is that they make their cases bigger to have better part compatibility. So nobody's really done one that was really like kind of just the smaller size, like the original Steambox. So that's basically what the Zaber brothers set out to do, is like provide a case option for people who want to have something like the original Steam Machine prototypes. What's taken so long though is like originally they were just going to have like pretty basically just fairly just simple, just the metal case itself and nothing else. But over time, as kind of they've talked with the community, as people wanted like it to include like front IO and the power cord and power button and packaging and blah blah blah, just all this extra stuff, and then like just more features, more quality, and it's just taken a lot of time getting it all sorted out. But it's finally here after 2 years. And I would just kind of like to brag a little bit. So like one of the one of the early screenshot renders of it showed it in like a I think it was like they were kind of just like mocking up different looks to kind of get people's opinion, and they had one that was with it standing up with a white exterior and then a red power button, I was looking at it. I was like, oh yeah, it had like the stand on it. It's like, if you have like it with the white and then the red, round red thing on the front, and then the way the stand is designed is like it kind of looks like the sentry turret from Portal. It's like if it had the feet in black, it looked like spot on. So then he did a render with it with the black feet, and it's like, yeah, it really looks like the turrets from Portal. So they named it the Sentry because obviously naming it like Portal Turret would be a no-no with Valve. And yeah, that's
come
how
on,
it got
dude.
named. So I thought, and it's really, especially it's funny because like it's like Portal, the game from Valve, which is the same Valve that made the Steam box prototype that inspired this. So I think it's neat
Full
that
circle.
it's come
Yeah.
full circle. Yeah. Oh, and so the best part is so the goal was like $40,000 or something like that. I don't know. 19,000. It was actually a really low goal. And like the campaign launched. Yes, they've crushed it. Like they're at $160,000 now.
Jeez.
But they hit the goal in I think 11 minutes of
That's impressive.
so, yes, they raised like $20,000 in 11 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. So just look for that news story. We encourage everyone, even if you're not in the market, to just take a look at the Indiegogo campaign, take a look at the design. It's pretty neat, and it holds its own against, from a compactness point of view and a design point of view, it holds its own against, any current generation console. And it's just, of course, we have a particularly fond appreciation for stuff like this, but, you can tell when there's been a lot of thoughtfulness behind how something is designed. And you can tell when something is just sort of exuberantly itself and, it is what it wants to be. And this is definitely a design and an enclosure and a product that is what it was meant to be. And it's super well done. So congrats to them for this success. And there's still like 20 days left.
Yep.
I'm looking at the Indiegogo campaign. Like, I got all the time in the world. And maybe they can breach 200 grand. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it seems to have leveled off now. So I mean, there'll be a spike at the end with all those last minute people, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe that little spike at the end could bump them up to 200. That'd be pretty impressive.
Yeah, we'll see. But hey, look, this isn't the only product from the forum that is now on Indiegogo. There's another one that I'm honestly, at a minimum, just as excited about, and in fact, it's similar in a variety of respects. And this is Inverse. Inverse has been around basically since the forum was the thing. I mean,
I think so. Yeah, it's been in development for quite a while too. Like, and that's kind of typical in most indie cases. But this one was a little unusual though, in that it's been very, very quiet for quite a while, and then just all of a sudden it's like popped up on Indiegogo. So it's a little strange. But yeah, it's a slim console style case as well, though kind of its claim to fame is that it's upside down, hence the name. So all the intake is on the bottom of the case. So like the motherboard is kind of upside down and stuff like that. And so what that gets you is that it's a nice clean top. There's no holes or vents or cutouts or anything on the top of the case. It's just nice and flat. So I think one of the features they tout is that you can put the monitor on top of it, which I don't know. I guess that's kind of gone out of style, putting the monitor on top of your computer, but you can do that. And I think maybe even a TV if it's not too heavy. So you can kind of have this as like a HTPC type of rig. So that's kind of its deal. Other than that, it's fairly straightforward. Just kind of a slim console style case. So you got the GPU kind of parallel to the motherboard. Oh, yep. One of the other things is that, unlike all the other slim style cases, is that they're kind of pushing for like you can put water cooling in here.
Yeah, like a full radiator.
Yeah, so like a full like 120 rad for like either the CPU or I guess if you really, really wanted to, you could do a custom loop. Though, good luck. And
it supports up to 240 mil rads.
Yes,
which is insane.
Yeah, and I think the way that works, if I recall, it's been a while. Like I said, the project just kind of been dormant and then just popped up, so I've kind of lost track of it. But I believe you can only really do that if either you don't have the video card or if it's a single slot. Though good luck finding one. But yeah, you can put a 240 in here, which is pretty crazy considering it's just a slim style case.
Yeah, and then the storage options are interesting too. So you can mount a couple like SSDs, 2.5-inch drives, and they just are over the motherboard. It's kind of confusing because everything's kind of mounted upside down from what's traditional. But in theory, you can actually install up to 6 full-size 3.5-inch drives, dependent on what you install for other components. So if you really wanted to, you could actually have a pretty darn insane amount of storage in this tiny thing if that's what you wanted to sort of design it towards, which may make sense if you just want it to be like a home theater PC that has all your media. Alternatively, if you want it to be sort of like a gaming thing and you can sacrifice some storage and you want to focus on performance, okay, great. You can utilize that space instead. Have those 2 SSDs, rate them, or just have one and have enough storage. But you can install beefier cooling. Obviously, a more potent graphics card is going to be a must. So the fact that it's compact and looks nice, but the sort of unique design choices enable a lot of decisions on the part of the users is very, very, very clever. And all of this is not to even speak towards the actual design of the external enclosure and what they've done, especially in terms of the cutouts for the vents is kind of interesting and kind of unique. This is very much an artistic take on how a computer enclosure should look, and it's really well done.
Yeah. Oh, and I was double checking, and actually, you can do the 240 rad with the normal video card. So it fits like in front of the power supply and the motherboard.
Wow.
So it's not overlapping the video card at all. So yeah, you can put a 240 rad, just have your normal dual slot video card, and I think in theory you could have 2 240s if you had a single slot. It would be an extremely tight fit, and I think you would need slim fans and then a slim radiator. But I think theoretically you could put 2 240 rads
that would be ridiculous
and have a video card. Yes, it would be insane.
Please, someone do it. Oh, man. All right. Well, with those two, we'd encourage all listeners to take a peek. Definitely consider supporting these projects. These projects are a unique but awesome component of what makes our community what it is. And either way, just checking them out. I mean, there's some really neat stuff. And these really are the sorts of designs and ideas and concepts that you just really don't see in sort of the traditional marketplace, because they are risky. They are nouveau, for lack of a better word. But that's what enthusiasts are able to bring to the table. And we're so happy to see that we already have one successful Indiegogo campaign, and who knows, we might even have 2 right in front of us, right next to each other. So thanks to them both for all the work they're doing. All right, so that's it for the news, which means we have to end the show with, of course, our featured form, Fred, which thankfully I don't have to say a 30-word-long sentence for anymore. I'm actually going to defer to you guys to discuss through this, because I have to admit I haven't read through the whole thread, but I know that there's a ton of interest and excitement surrounding it. And this is, of course, the G-Unique thread. So maybe James, you seem to be the one that is the most in tune as to what's going on here. So
yes, it's so cool. Okay, so I guess what it is I guess to kind of give some background, what it is that there's a and I'm going to mispronounce this, and I do apologize. But it's Guriwa Hua. I don't know. He's Chinese, and I'm sorry. But what it is I guess, I mean, because that's the kind of thing, is like, it's like China has kind of its own little bubble of like neat projects and stuff that's just kind of cut off from the rest of us, mostly due to the language barrier. And so I guess he's been designing these really crazy DC units, just like really insane stuff. And apparently they're all like handmade, custom designed, and custom built to order. So somebody will just give him like, I need like this form factor and this wattage and these connectors and these specs, and he just designs it and like builds it. It's crazy. But and I can never remember because it's just a bunch of numbers. But one of the members on the forum has, I guess, been interacting with him before, and I guess like he's bilingual, so he speaks both Chinese and English, and so he's been serving as kind of a go-between, and so they're both on the forum, and so this is kind of coming back to the vendor marketplace, is that they have like a kind of like a standard version, because I think normally like he just has like a AliExpress listing, and you kind of contact him and just tell him what you want, and he just makes it. But of course, like language barrier, that's kind of difficult to do if you don't speak Chinese. And then there's the whole like international shipping and all that mess. So they're coming up with like kind of like a standardized version of like their it's kind of like a direct plug Pico PSU style form factor. And so they're just going to have one that's like semi-standardized, and it's just got like a simple like form in English that you can fill out and order it. So you can do all that instructions in the vendor marketplace. But in the preview thread for that unit, and apparently Gary Wah has just been like really excited to have a place to talk about these, where people are really excited for his products. And so he's just been posting picture after picture of all these crazy projects he's worked on. So I highly, highly, highly encourage people to check out the thread, because it's nuts.
It is.
Yes.
I wish I even had like a 1% of his electronics skill.
Oh, I know. Me too.
It's just insane. Like the power density that he's achieving with DC to DC.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then like they're also like, it's very varied too. Like it's not just like simple variations of the same basic design. It's like they vary quite a bit. Anything from like real small, compact, like direct plug, like 200-watt units, up to like this insane, like I think it was like 400-watt direct plug unit. So like it's like a Pico PSU, but then like just cranked up to 11 or maybe 12.
I'm gonna go with
like
15.
Yeah, it plugs into the 24 pin, but it's like huge. It was designed for the AceRock X99 ITX board, and so like I think it's basically as long as the board, and then like height wise, I think it looks about 40 millimeters or something. It's about somewhat even with the top of the RAM, and then like it's 400-watt DC-DC. It's insane. Yeah. And then,
well, we'd encourage anyone to take a peek. I will never have the skill this guy has. I'm looking through it right now, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, I'm just drooling over this. It's just like his, like, like John said though. I wish I had like 1% of his talent for electronics. Yeah.
I'd be okay with 0.5%. I'd make that work.
But it's just another example of the amazing talent that we have on our forums.
Yes, definitely.
So,
Hashtag humble brag. And with that, I may or may not have to take off. So I think now is an excellent time, if any, to close up the show and wrap things up. So as always, our thanks to all of you guys, the listeners. I'd like to just sort of extend that for this episode to folks on the forum, especially with all the stuff we have going on, especially with the Indiegogo projects that are launching that, originated from folks that are on our forum, as well as, of course, the thread we're talking about right now, which is an even more interesting selection of parts and projects in a lot of ways. So thank you so much for tuning in. As always, my name is Josh Ramirez, aka Playful Phoenix. I was joined today by John Morrison, aka Confucius, and James Shell, aka Abophobia. What do you guys have upcoming for the next few weeks?
I've got a few reviews.
Yes,
oh, really?
Here.
And you know what? I may or may not have a review to
Yes,
contribute.
a very interesting product.
Very interesting product. I'm very excited to take a peek. As many of our listeners know, we were at CES, courtesy of our new awesome correspondent, Drew Duncan, and I think our readers are going to be pretty happy with some of the reviews and things we have in the pipeline. We're super, super excited. But that's all we can say for now. Just stay tuned, keep listening, keep reading, And until next time, thank you so much for listening. Have a nice one.